Trump's rise coincides with De Niro's decline, and the person who knows it most is De Niro. He's a fine example of how not to turn loss into bitterness. There are plenty of people who don't like Trump, but don't let it warp their minds or their ability to speak aloud among grown-ups or The View. But the Schiffs and De Niros of the world are emotionally damaged by politics to a point where they can't even assess their own emotions. Being an actor is tough, for how does one handle real life without a script? Not equipped to think analytically, you're left powerless when observing your own predictions about life turn out wrong. It's not supposed to be this way, De Niro thinks. Only the cool guys get to win. Sorry, Bob. That's only in the movies, but at least you'll always have joy.
Robert De Niro used to terrify audiences with just a glance. Now, he terrifies producers with every unscripted sentence. The man once praised for his razor-sharp performances has devolved into a living meme. Less method actor, more method meltdown. And then came Greg Gutfeld, armed not with a monologue but with a mirror. And what he showed the world? Brutal, unforgiving, hilarious. Because this wasn't a clash, it was a takedown.
Robert De Niro graced the knitting circle in hell known as The View, where he tried to link random thoughts into a sentence. Joy was there to wind him up, since he's played some of the most unredeemable characters.
You have played some of the most really unredeemable characters. Travis Bickle. Travis Bickle was a psychopathic taxi driver. Jake LaMotta, who used to beat his wife, and he was in The Raging Bull. Is Trump worse than they are?
To me, he is. He has no understanding that I can see of the outside world.
De Niro's career once stood like a cinematic cathedral, sacred, untouchable. Today, it's more like a haunted tourist trap, dusty, creaky, and full of regret. He doesn't act anymore. He erupts, shouting into microphones like the louder he gets, the more people will forget his last 10 film choices. But nobody's forgetting, especially not Greg. Gutfeld didn't walk in swinging. He just observed. And that alone was devastating. De Niro gave him all the ammo he needed, ranting at award shows, delivering monologues that sounded like rejected diary entries from a man who lost an argument with his own mirror. And Gutfeld? He just leaned in with that smug grin and said what everyone else was too polite to admit. De Niro's not edgy. He's just noisy.
De Niro kind of represents Hollywood in the sense that they realize that they're losing influence with the public, and that's what's generating the emotional response. They've never felt less important.
It just doesn't feel like 2016 again. Like we lived through that. Did they forget?
Yeah.
It also feels like they forgot that. And remember, just this week we had Kamala Harris dropping the F-bomb at a group.
The disintegration wasn't subtle. Somewhere between prestige cinema and political obsession, De Niro decided yelling at the camera was more effective than acting in front of it. His performances replaced by protests. His lines, mostly fury and filler. The same guy who once whispered, "You talking to me?" now screams at the void, hoping someone's still listening. But the internet is always listening and cringing. Greg Gutfeld didn't need to roast him. He just had to hit play. De Niro gave up mystery for microphones. Every red carpet became a soapbox, every interview a therapy session with no therapist. He's turned award shows into campaign rallies, news segments into dramatic readings of conspiracy threads. It's not politics, it's performance art gone feral. And Gutfeld, he cut through the noise with one deadly tool: clarity. While De Niro spiraled into his own self-importance, Greg calmly dismantled his delusions with surgical wit. No shouting, no drama, just the brutal force of common sense slapping delusion across the face.
Trump.
Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture. And the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O, or that he won a $10 scratch off.
You see, De Niro used to intimidate with silence. Now he overwhelms with volume. And that's the real tragedy. He's become the Hollywood version of a malfunctioning fire alarm. Loud, constant, and totally disconnected from reality. But the worst part? He thinks he's still winning. He struts into interviews like a war general preparing to conquer. What we get instead? A confused elder statesman misfiring on all cylinders. Watching De Niro talk politics is like watching Shakespeare performed by a guy who thinks every line ends in, "I'm just saying." And Greg didn't have to dig deep. The contradictions were sitting on the surface, waving. The once private actor now treats every camera like a pulpit, preaching rage and recycling buzzwords. The tough guy we saw in films? Gone, replaced by a grumpy uncle who thinks every Thanksgiving dinner is a televised debate. And when he speaks, it's not conviction, it's confusion dressed as defiance. One minute he's quoting the Constitution like he's Moses descending from the mountain, the next he's swearing like a teenager who just discovered politics on Twitter. He's not making statements, he's auditioning for applause. Except no one's clapping.
And the star of Dirty Grandpa, Robert De Niro, getting censored by The View after raging like a bull who saw a red MAGA hat.
And they might think that it's going to make their life better, or they just want to, excuse my French, literally, it's almost like he wants to do the worst that he could possibly do to show this country.
And maybe the real tragedy? He doesn't even know he's lost the room. He still storms the stage like it's 1976, like every microphone is a monologue and every audience owes him reverence. But this isn't Raging Bull. It's just rage. No arc, no climax. Just a man shadowboxing with ghosts of relevance. He's not auditioning anymore. He's pleading. Every viral clip is less a performance than a panic attack with lighting. The cadence, shaky. The message, garbled. The intent, soaked in the desperation of someone who needs the applause to mean something again. It's like watching a rock legend forget the lyrics mid-tour but keep screaming into the mic. And Gutfeld, he's the only one with the guts to laugh. Because behind the Hollywood glow and the political theater is a man who can't let go. Of fame, of certainty, of the illusion that he's still the voice of a generation. A generation that, frankly, has moved on. De Niro's fury doesn't spark revolutions, it sells segments. It doesn't challenge norms, it props up failing narratives. What he calls truth-telling is really just ego echoing off the walls of a very expensive mansion. There's no bravery in punching down on a stage guarded by publicists and teleprompters. There's no virtue in shouting safe slogans to a room of nodding heads. That's not resistance. That's performance art for people too rich to remember risk. And yet, he keeps going. The irony? He once mastered silence. The look, the pause, the threat. That's what made him legendary. Now he fills every second with words that don't land and fury that doesn't move. His legacy didn't get stolen. It got drowned. Drowned in noise, in ego, in applause that stopped being real 5 microphones ago. Gutfeld never had to bury De Niro. He just narrated the burial that De Niro himself insisted on live streaming. Every outburst another shovel of dirt, every rant another nail in a golden velvet-lined coffin labeled the good old days. And as the lights dim and the cameras pull back, De Niro isn't center stage anymore. He's the cautionary tale pacing backstage, still rehearsing lines no one's quoting. Because sometimes the most brutal roast is just letting someone speak uninterrupted.